What's one of the biggest questions that you have about building a successful business online, or really building any business online? What is the burning question in the back of your mind about what it takes to be a kick-ass, successful, world-class entrepreneur? You likely have questions that have been burning in the back of your mind, and today on the Daily Dose of Awesome, we're going to uncover the myth. We're going to discover the truth, and we're going to talk about what it really takes to be successful as an entrepreneur. Hello, my friends. JT DeBolt with you today for the Elite Marketing Pro Daily Dose of Awesome, your 15 minutes of inspiration, education, and motivation to help you get your day started off right. And as you're jumping out here, let me know where you are tuning in from. And as you do, let me say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, no matter where you might be tuning in from, no matter what time it is for you on the Big Blue Marble. Thanks for joining us here each and every single Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, or I should say 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern for the Daily Dose of Awesome. Great to have you with us. Bart Ripple's in the house coming in from Cleveland. What's going on? Richard Breton. Hey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man, from Kansas City. Good to see you, brother. All right, listen, as you're jumping out here, say hello, and I'll say hello back to the best I can. I want to answer some questions today, and really, I get a lot of questions that basically have the same theme to them. So today, it's not so much me going through and answering a bunch of questions. It's about me addressing kind of, something that comes up quite a bit, both at the workshops when we do those live one-on-one conversations that I have with folks, or occasionally when I do a strategy session with an entrepreneur. The question that I'll often ask is, what are the characteristics of strong entrepreneurs, or what does it take to be really great as an entrepreneur? And I got to say, there's not just a set list of characteristics. There's not just certain things that you have to be really good at. Of course, there are certain things that you want to be good at, certain skill sets like copywriting, sales and closing. You want to be very effective with how you manage your energy and how you manage your the things that you do inside the time that you have, so on and so forth. But when it comes down to being a really effective entrepreneur, we're going to talk about a couple of things that I have noticed that are super important, and probably some things that you haven't thought of. And what sparked this conversation was I do what I do every single year on Christmas Day, is spend a little bit of time reflecting on the year that's been and looking forward to the year that is about to be. And a lot of times I think this time of year, people start thinking about those god-awful New Year's resolutions. And the challenge with New Year's resolutions is they fail at a rate of about 92%. 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. That's an actual statistic. I'm not going to go super deep into this because this conversation is not about New Year's resolutions. If you're somebody who's still stuck in that old school paradigm where you want to set resolutions, go off and have fun, knock yourself out. We're not going to talk about that today. What I'm going to be talking about, though, is what you might want to be focused on instead. And that means, what do we need to do? Where do we need to place our time, energy, and focus to be successful as an entrepreneur, not just in the new year, but every single year moving forward? Again, this is not just about new year, new me, feel good in the moment. This is about actually changing our paradigm, shifting our paradigm, and thinking differently and behaving differently, and therefore getting better results. See lots of folks jumping out. Nancy Sutherland coming in from Niagara Falls, Ontario. Good to see you, Nancy. Samra, what's going on? Samra says, I never set them. Good for you, Samra. I don't either. They're ridiculous. They're a complete waste of time. I guess if you like party tricks and, crazy stuff, you can go do that. But Samra says she does daily goals. I see some other folks chiming in on this as well. We'll get to those comments as they feed in. My feed's a little bit slow today. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, and this is a distinction that I made several years ago, but I have to be completely transparent and say that it wasn't a distinction that I made early in my entrepreneurial career. In fact, if anything, this was one of the big anchors that was holding me down, slowing me down, and pulling me under the surface of the water as I swam through the sea of entrepreneurship. And that was that I was so focused on being a consumer that I wasn't being a producer. So the shift and the thing that I want you to consider, one of the true characteristics of great entrepreneurs, is that they are producers, not consumers. Now, what do I mean by that? When I say producer, what does that mean to you? When you hear the term producer, what do you think of, especially as it pertains to business, especially as it pertains to being an entrepreneur? When you hear the term producer, what does that term mean for you? I'm interested to know what that means before I start jumping in and just kind of spilling my guts about what this topic means. It's super important that you understand this, because This is one of the key characteristics of successful entrepreneurs is they have made the shift from being a consumer into being a producer. So I got some folks coming in here. Bart says getting money to change hands. Okay, cool. Awesome. Great job, Bart. I love that. And that's certainly part of it. I think that's a huge part of it. As a matter of fact, it's that kind of change in mindset from just being somebody who constantly is out there trying to, watch things happen as opposed to somebody who's out there making things happen, right? What I'm talking about when I say going from a producer, going from a consumer to being a producer, it goes through all facets of your behavior. So one thing that was big for me was I went away from just being a consumer of information to being a producer of content. Now, what this was I spent a lot of time in what most people call the scroll hole. I had a friend of mine call that, how it is when you're on your phone and you're going through social media, you're looking at Facebook and you're like, oh my gosh, there's that, and Twitter and all these other things. It's just that constant scroll. And you might say to yourself, well, I'm just going to go online for like 2 seconds. I got to do some quick research before I put out my ad or put out my post or put out my blog. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour later. Listen, if you find yourself in that role, realize you are being a consumer in that moment. All right. You are consuming information. You're not doing anything in that moment that actually produces anything. This is very important. In fact, if you remember on Friday when I came out here, we were talking about the myth of time management and how to manage yourself. It goes back to that. And we were talking about the 3 categories of behaviors: result-driven, preparation, and of course, distraction tasks, right? The distraction behaviors. That's exactly what we're talking about here is watch yourself if you find yourself getting easily distracted or if you're in the getting ready to get ready phase. That is not what effective entrepreneurs do. Effective entrepreneurs are in producer role. Now, what this means is doesn't mean that everything you do has to render a result. We'll get to that in a second. What it does mean, though, is that you want to shift your thinking away from, hey, I'm just going to go and look at what everybody else is doing. I'm going to go look at what the experts are saying. I'm going to download that PDF. I'm going to read that ebook. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, as opposed to actually physically doing the heavy lifting, right? It's one thing to look up workouts. It's one thing to look up healthy diets. It's a totally different thing to shift the way you eat, shift the way you move your body, right? That's how you actually get fit and healthy. Guess what? Problem solved with business in the same way. If you go from being a consumer to being a producer, instead of consuming information, instead of consuming ideas and actually producing information, producing content, producing ideas, that's when everything shifts. Now, if this makes sense, give me a 2 in the chat box. I want to see how many folks are following, because here's the thing. When you go from being a consumer to being a producer, it means that you have to actually put the rubber on the road. And that could be sometimes be a little bit frightening, right? So if you're one of these people that loves to do New Year's resolutions, maybe that's a resolution you make, is I'm going to resolve to be a producer instead of a consumer. Now, Samra says, implementing what I've learned. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That is spot on. Nailed it. Hit the nail right on the head. It's where you take the information that you already have. My friends, you are packed full of great stuff, all right? Whether it's your personal experience, whether it's your past, whether it's the things you've done in the done up to leading up to this point, even if it's day one for you as an entrepreneur, you have something to provide. Start seeing yourself as a producer as opposed to being a consumer, and you will win the day. Chuck Kewen coming in from South Carolina. What's going on, Chuck? Good to see you, my friend. Nancy says, adding value to others' lives. Spot on. Completely agree. Lots of folks dialing 2 in here, which tells me you guys are tracking along, which is great, and I appreciate that. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, another huge differentiation that effective entrepreneurs make, is they go from just filling a void or thinking that there is nothing in their head but void, and creating a voice. Right? So a voice instead of a void. Now, this is different. Now, you have to understand, a lot of times we think to ourselves, okay, I know I got to write that blog post. I know I got to do that Facebook Live. I know I got to put the ad out there. And we know exactly what it is we have to do, but we don't follow through with it. So what do we have? A big fat zero, right? And here's the key to anything. I'm not sure if it's a scientific law or if it's a psychological thing that psychologists and really smart people, academics, have come up with. But there's a thing called Parkinson's law or Parkinson's theory, and that is this: if you leave a spot, a void of space open, it will eventually fill itself. And what they mean by space is a space and time. So if you say to yourself, well, I got this block of time on Friday, I'm gonna from 8 to 10 in the morning, right? Just 2 hours. I'm just going to leave it open. Something will eventually show up in your life in that space, one way or the other. You might say to yourself, I'm not doing anything for 2 solid hours. I'm just going to leave it open and see what happens. Chances are somebody's going to want your time. Something's going to break down in your car. Somebody's going to call you for a favor. Somebody's going to need a ride. Whatever it might look like, something is going to happen. This means you have to be very intentional. That means you have to create and share your voice. So if you want to be an effective entrepreneur, do not allow the void to take over your life. Instead, fill it with your voice. Now, I'm not trying to be cute here. This isn't a play on words. I mean this very, very specifically. I thought long and hard about this morning. The simple fact that there aren't very many people out there sharing their voice is appalling to me. There's a lot of really smart folks, and you might be one of them, that's sitting back thinking to themselves, well, I'm not quite ready yet. Or what do I have to share? What could I possibly say that would move the needle for somebody else? That's not thinking in terms, that's not where your focus should be, though. Because what are you thinking about when you think that way? Think about it for 2 seconds. I want to know from your perspective, when a person says, well, what do I have to share? I don't have anything interesting. I don't have an interesting story. What are they really focused on? Well, I don't know what I can share with these folks. I don't know what I can tell them. I don't know what I can tell those people or those people or those people. They start thinking about what they think is they're thinking about other people, but what are they really thinking about? I want to see it here in the chat box. Let's see some folks out here getting participating with me. I got a pretty good sized crowd coming in, especially the day after Christmas. By the way, Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrated. Happy Boxing Day to our friends over in the UK that celebrate Boxing Day. I know some folks are out there. The focus, of course, if you're thinking about, well, I don't have a voice, I'm just going to sit back, I'm not going to do anything, is you're focused on yourself, right? And unfortunately, you might be saying to yourself, well, listen, I want to make sure what I'm adding is valuable, and I want to make sure that what I'm doing isn't going to waste people's time. Listen, if you're thinking that way, you're really thinking about yourself. You're in actuality not thinking about the other person. Whereas if you say to yourself, you know what, I've got some good ideas. I've been taking notes on my trusty phone here, or I've got my notepad full of notes, or whatever it is that you keep, and you say to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I'm going to extend my voice to the world. What you have just done, my friend, is filled a void. Now, the one thing you have to understand is if you don't fill that void, somebody else will. Going back to Parkinson's theory or Parkinson's law or whatever it is, at some point, that void, that space will get filled. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be your competition? Is it going to be that person that's got a bunch of negative things to say? Is it going to be the person that's being silly and putting out more content that has no relevance to anything? Or is it going to be you? Somebody who actually brings hope, somebody who actually brings positivity, somebody who actually brings a solution. Heaven forbid. Imagine that. Somebody brings a solution. That's what we need more of, and you are uniquely qualified, believe it or not, to do just that. Super important that you understand this, and I want to see if you guys are catching this. If you're with me, let me know. Samra says they're focused on themselves. People need to speak up to benefit others. Absolutely. Bart says everybody has stories worth sharing. Listen, you guys are getting this, and so I want you all to lead. I want you to all lead by example, all right? So as soon as we get off here, I want to see people out there extending their voices and giving it all they got. Very cool stuff that we're getting here. By the way, if this is working for you, give me a 3 in the chat box. I want to see how many folks out there are resonating with this message. Now, the next part to this, thank you very much. Got some nice comments. All right, seeing some 3s coming in here. The next part about this is, listen, in anything in life, you have to understand, and this is especially true for effective entrepreneurship, is it's about extreme ownership, right? It's not just about the book, Extreme Ownership, right? I'm not just talking about this book here by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. I'm talking about a behavior, a philosophy, a way of showing up on a daily basis. That means kicking ass and taking names. Instead of kicking the can down the street, kick the ass up and down the avenue, baby. Now, here's the most important thing you have to understand. You're not going to get it right every time. You're going to trip. You're going to fall. You might look foolish. You might screw up. You might make mistakes. But here's the simple reality. There are no accidents. There are simple, cute little mistakes. I remember my wife watching Bob Ross. Remember Bob Ross, the painter with the big fro, right? The dude that makes the happy little trees. He said, there are no accidents. There are happy little mistakes. There are no mistakes, happy little accidents. It doesn't matter. The whole point is this. You don't want to look at something and go, well, I screwed up. This thing was a complete disaster. Take a look at the work that you produce on a daily basis and ask yourself a series of questions. Number one, did it come from the heart? Okay. Did you come from the heart, or were you trying to be somebody else? Number two, were you doing it with intention? Were you doing it for the sake of just doing action, to just be busy, or were you doing it with an end in mind to help somebody else? And number three, did you give it your best in that moment? Now look, here's the thing. Some days you're not going to feel like it. Look at this. We got people who showed up to this message today. There are thousands of people who could have shown up to this, and only a few showed up. That means that somewhere you are giving a little bit more than another person. Now, does that mean we're going to judge them? No, maybe they're traveling, maybe they're spending time with loved ones. But my point is this. There are folks right now who are giving all they got, and all they got is 50%. If you give 100% of your 50%, meaning maybe you're sick, maybe you're tired, maybe you've got a lot on your mind, but you're still showing up and you're giving everything you got, as much as you have, then that's all that we ask, right? We're not saying you got to be all world every single day. We're not saying you got to be a champion every single day. There are going to be days where you're utterly going to suck. There are going to be days where you're going to go on a Facebook Live, you're going to stumble over your words, you're going to forget what you were saying, you're going to have nobody show up, nobody commenting, nobody engaging. And guess what? You showed up. And if you showed up with a good attitude and you showed up, hey man, I'm going to take extreme ownership of this thing and I'm going to kick ass to the extent that I can, then that's the best we can ask of you. And that's what effective entrepreneurs do. They realize that not every single day is going to be a winner. All right. Not every single day is going to shine. Not every single day is going to be one for the ages. Some days are going to suck. In fact, many days are going to be days you're going to look at and go, what was the point? But here's the reality. If you keep showing up to it and keep hitting it, keep hammering, eventually what's going to happen is your 50% is going to go to 60, and then 65, and then 70, and 75, and 80. And pretty soon your average day is going to be better than most people's best day. That's the difference. When you look at somebody who's extremely effective as an entrepreneur and you go like, man, everything they touch turns to gold, you have to realize that a lot of times they're playing just north of their version of mediocrity. Now, they will not settle for that. It's just that they've worked at it so hard and they've put themselves at a higher standard, not an impossible standard, not a self-judging standard, but a standard where they say, you know what, I'm going to show up and I'm going to give everything I got, regardless of how I feel, regardless of what's going on in my life. That's how they get those results. And again, we're going to talk about results in a second, so stay with me, but I want to make sure you guys are still tracking here. Let me know what's going on in your heads. If you are following me with this, give me a 4 in the chat box. It's time to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Roddy Piper. That's a great one, Bart. I remember that. That was a great quote. Let's see here. Julie Preston says extreme ownership. Love it. By the way, guys, I recommend this book. This is an awesome book. If you're a leader, if you want to study leadership, could not recommend that book more. It's fantastic. So you got to love it. All right. Lots of people dialing 4s in here. I love it. That's cool. All right. Next. To be an effective entrepreneur, there's another distinction that you have to make, and this is one that I really want to drive home, okay? And this is one that I've been kind of hinting at and teasing all this whole time when we were talking about results. Instead of focusing on results, in fact, even instead of focusing on goals, focus on process, all right? Focus on process and progress. It's not about how much you lift, how fast you run, how much money you make. It doesn't matter how many views you get. It doesn't matter how many clicks you get. Those things are important by all stretches, man. Those are metrics and those are results. But the question is, are you following a process? Do you have a process for how you show up to your day? Do you have a process for how you do your work? Do you have a process? Because if you've got a process, then you've got a shot at winning. That's the reason that we put together the roadmap. And by the way, you're going to see a big integrated roadmap coming out very soon for EMP. It's going to be amazing. So some people think, well, we got a VIP roadmap and now we've got this thing, the fast track roadmap. We've got this roadmap. What about just one roadmap? Your requests, your prayers have been answered, because we will be revealing that very soon. And the point to that is to give you a process so that you know what to do on a daily basis. Not a step-by-step, what do I need to do, a checklist, not that. But a way of thinking, a way of behaving, so that no matter what your day looks like, whether it's busy or it's wide open, whether you're having a world-class, all-world day or you're having a total day that you just wish you could throw away and start all over again. When you have a process, you have something to lean against, and that gives you that discipline that you need on a daily basis, that structure to be able to show up. And that, my friends, is super important. So remember, it's about process over results. It's about progress over goals. All right. So it's not just about setting and hitting goals. It's about having a process to do whatever you need to do to get done. And you're going to have your own process, whether it's how you brush your teeth, how you get ready for the day, or how you get yourself to and from places. You're also going to have a process, and we're going to demonstrate that to you and show it to you with the roadmap. Okay, so that's cool. That's exciting. That's something to look forward to. But start thinking and shifting your mindset away from going, well, I want to be told what to do. I just want to be held by the hand. I just want everybody to show me to paint by the numbers. That's not how entrepreneurship works. If that's how you think, either shift it or go get a job, because that's what bosses do. Bosses give you the little picture, the little colors to paint by, the numbers to paint by. They give you the picture and say, don't draw outside the lines. Entrepreneurship is different. Entrepreneurship is messy. That's the reason we need a process. So if you start thinking process oriented, and your mind is thinking process as opposed to just check by the numbers and step by step, pretty soon you start to realize, hey, I could do just about anything. Doesn't matter whether it's a Monday, a Sunday, a Saturday, or a Wednesday. Doesn't matter whether it's evening, morning, or night. I have my process. I don't need a script, and I can do this no matter what. And again, it's not just about obsessing on results. Results are super important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't get results or don't shoot for results. What I'm saying is stop obsessing over them. Instead, obsess over progress. Are you making progress? Are you moving forward? And if not, what might you do differently in order to get there? All right, seeing some folks, lots of comments coming in here. Bart says, just added that book to my 2019 reading list. Right on, man. Let me know what you think, Bart. I'd love to know what you get from that. It's really cool. Okay, last thing I'm going to say is this. Effective entrepreneurship is more than just about the outcome. Effective entrepreneurship is more than just about how much money you make, how many followers you have, how many sales you've had, how many shiny little things you got up on your wall, or how many accolades you get, or if you cross the stage, or whether you're a rank advancer, or whether you're blah, blah, blah. It's not about the income, it's about the impact. When you focus on the impact as opposed to the income will come. Trust me on this. When you start focusing on the impact you make on a daily basis, the income will increase. It's one of the most awesome things in the world. Focus on the impact you make, but not just the impact itself. Focus on how you make it. Focus on what it is about you that's special, that's unique. Focus on how it is and who you serve. The most important thing you can have in life, in my humble yet accurate opinion, is purpose. And if you have purpose in life, you will make an impact. So find the purpose, not the why. Stop dropping the word, just drop the word why. Start finding the purpose for your business. Start finding the purpose for your message. Start filling that void with your voice. And when you do, your income's going to grow, your followership's going to grow, but more importantly, the impact you make will be lasting. And you just never know whose life you might impact today with the word you have to share. So get out there now, get out there every day, share your voice out there in the void, be a beacon of light for those folks out there that need your help, and realize this, you will make an impact no matter where you're starting from, whether it's right here or whether you've been in the game for a while. You have the power to make the impact. So go out there and do it today, do it every single day. All right, my friends, well, that just about does it for today. Very stoked to be with you. Thank you so much for showing up today for the Daily Dose of Awesome. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your engagement. Really appreciate you guys. Love you. So much fun to be with you guys. And be sure to join us again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern for another amazing mentor who's going to come out here with a great message for you as well. And remember, no matter what course you fly in life, fly high, fly fast, and fly far. We'll talk to you soon.